We are both from Mintel. If you're not familiar with Mintel, we're a global market intelligence agency. And we do a lot of research across a lot of different markets and consumers. And we also keep an eye on trends. So I will start by letting Lynn introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Lynn Dornblazer. I'm Director of Innovation and Insight at Mintel. And as this is appropriate for this conversation, I will say that I'm a baby boomer. And that's something that we'll be talking about in just a minute.
We decided to frame this around the topic of healthy aging as discussing our different generational point of views on healthy aging. So I'm the counterpoint here. I am a millennial. My name is Jenny Zegler. I'm an associate director at Mintel of our global food and drink platform. So to give you a brief look into what we plan on covering today, looking at what is healthy aging and why it is so important to so many different consumers. And then why does healthy aging matter differently to different generations? And then lastly, how can products formulate for healthy aging? So we wanted to get started with a interesting viewpoint on exactly what this means.
Right. So we've got this quote here, and actually I have it here, so I don't need to crane my neck and read it. But the goal of our longer lives is not just extra time. The ultimate goal is to have the freedom to do what we want. Now, if you're a baby boomer like me, I think that probably really resonates with you. So just real briefly, just because it'll help us with our discussion, let's do a show of hands. How many of you, like me, are a baby boomer? A few. Okay.
How many of you are Generation X? Okay. And how many of you are millennials?
All right. We've got a millennial audience here. That'll make this fun.
But I think that that's also something to consider. Freedom means something different to each generation and means something different in terms of what they're seeing and what they believe for themselves. But it's also the fact that around the world, we see people living longer. And so this is from the United Nations and their data. And in 2019, earlier this year, they came out with a press release that said that 70 is the new 60. And that is because what you see behind us, that people are living longer all around the world. So in 1950, you see that much shorter bar in terms of the global lifespan, and that is now expanding through the next few years. But it seems as if it's going to be pretty obvious that by 2050, 80 will be the new 70. And I think that is the important thing to think about as we approach this idea of healthy aging, that millennials and millennials and Generation X will likely keep extending the definition of what it means to be a senior because they're going to be living longer and they want more of their lives to have that freedom that we saw in that first slide.
Exactly. And I think today's newest seniors, which are the oldest baby boomers, are starting that revolution and really reimagining what getting old can be and what it's all about. Now, if you take a look, just a little side note, if you were to take a look at the percent of the population in any given country that has consumers over the age of 60, you see that for the most part, depending on the country, so less developed countries, the percentage is very low. In more developed countries like the US, it's 6-7% of the population would be over 60. But there's one country in the world right now that has 24%, I believe, of their population right now over the age of 60, and that's Japan. So Japan is a fascinating place to look to see how products are positioned to that older consumer. Now, the Japanese market talks about things in very different ways. You know, you see products that talk about for old people over the age of 45, things like that. But they also have some very different kinds of products. And you see a couple of those on the screen up there. The one is in a flexible stand-up pouch, shelf-stable pouch. You see a lot of those. And you feel that product in the pouch, and you can feel that it doesn't really have much in the way of lumps in it. It's very liquidy, very much like a paste. So very easy to chew if you don't have teeth. That sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? But if you think about the ultimate of appealing to consumers as they are really quite senior, you can see that those types of products could have a place in the market. We also see products that are in different pack sizes also. So being very small in size for older consumers. And I'll throw out something here about the Japanese market that's an important thing to look at, and that is the principles of universal design. That's design that's appropriate for anyone, regardless of age or ability. So packaging that's easier to open and close and easier to function with when you have hands that don't work as well as they used to, for example. So then as we take a look at some of the products that we see out there in the market, we see products being positioned to seniors in some interesting ways and not always in some positive ways or ways that really work, we think. So you see that senior active yogurt there from a company called Bakoma in Poland. That's a yogurt that has added vitamins and minerals. It's especially useful for consumers who are older. So it's got more calcium and things like that. But it's called Senior Active. Now, for the few baby boomers who are here in the audience, is that something you would buy that says on pack it's for seniors? No, probably not. So you have to applaud the company for having a product that has the right formulation, but you have to wonder about the branding and the positioning.
Yeah, I think of it as across any age group, the only people who are excited to be seniors are high school seniors. No one else wants to be told that. And so our middle product here is something that caused a lot of buzz a few years ago as it was first coming out as a complete nutritional replacement product. And this is called Soylent. It is a product from millennials and really marketed towards millennials and referencing a old pop culture reference, but something that a lot of millennials didn't fully understand. And something that I think is interesting in taking that reference, just personal story here. My uncle, who is a baby boomer, was in downtown Chicago and got handed a sample of this. And before he consumed that sample, he took a photo, posted it on Facebook and said, "Is it okay to drink this?" And then turned the bottle around and showed the ingredient statement and said, "It does not include people." Now, I laughed at this because I've talked about this brand for a couple years, but it was a good informal survey because
most people who are not baby boomers have absolutely no idea what she just said and what that means. How many of you know where the word Soylent comes from? Not very many. Okay, so I'm going to explain this now. 1972, there was a movie that came out called Soylent Green. It starred Charlton Heston. Now, for those of you who are old enough, you know that Charlton Heston it was an actor who really, really very seriously overacted. But nevertheless, it takes place at some undetermined point in the future in this horrible dystopian society where there are too many people and not enough food, but there are these beverages that provide complete nutrition. And the one that was the best one, that had the best nutrition, was called Soylent Green, and that was the name of the movie. Charlton Heston was a reporter and thought there was something fishy about Soylent Green, so he did some research, and his big line was, "Oh my God, it's people." Soylent Green was made from people. So that's where the name comes from. But the gentleman who invented Soylent, the drink that we see now today, took a very tongue-in-cheek approach. You go on the website and you go to the ingredients tab and it says, no, it doesn't contain people. But to my mind, I see that and I think, I don't care what's in it. There's no way I'm going to drink that. There's no possible way I'm going to drink that product.
And then we have our last example here. It's a brand called Perennial, and our Mintel Trends database had picked up this product, and I thought it was really interesting. It is designed to be a nutritional drink for people over the age of 50. It really, I think, is branded really well, has the potential for some of that clean aesthetic that could appeal to more people. And Lynn has it. I don't know if there's anything on the nutrition you want to talk about.
We're passing some around so that you can take a look at the package. But so, all right, too many things here. So nice little aseptic carton. It talks about brain health, bone health, gut health, muscle health. So it's talking about all the right things, vitamins and minerals, all good stuff. So on the face of it, it really makes sense.
So now I would like you to direct your attention to Lynn's face as I read this quote from their About Us section of their website. This is explaining why they created this product. We are sons and daughters of 50 plus adults, and we wanted to continue to see them thrive. Frustrated by the lack of innovation for this forgotten demographic, we set out to create a world we are excited to age into. Her head didn't explode, guys.
You see the challenges with that, don't you? So here's a drink that is specifically for consumers who are baby boomers, formulated by their children because their children don't trust them to eat well enough. And to me, I hear that statement and I think, as someone to whom that product is marketed, I don't think they could be more offensive if they tried, because that is so, it's so demeaning. Those statements are so demeaning because clearly we don't know how to take care of our health at all. So here's something that our kids are going to do for us because they know way better than we do. But what I think the bigger picture point here is there are a lot of products on the market that are exactly right for aging consumers. But it's so important to not fall into the trap of treating an aging consumer like someone who isn't as smart and capable and able as you are.
I will also say from the millennial part of you, I also did get offended by this because I felt it was directly telling me that because I was not innovating products, I don't care about seeing my parents thrive. So one of the reasons we decided to talk about that. And so where we see this potentially going and the movement for, sorry, could we get help advancing the slide? Just need to move on to the next slide. Sorry about that. I don't know what I did. And so where we see this potential for healthy aging and more movement towards taking inspiration from other categories, is to take inspiration from the beauty industry. And the beauty industry has done a fantastic job changing this view towards anti-aging as something that is proactive and is marketed with positive language to people of all ages. And so there are things you should start doing in your 20s and your 30s and your 40s to potentially prevent all of the wrinkles and other things that people might be scared of associated with old age. And so now we're seeing more of that being marketed and more of the beauty industry positioning this as a non-issue. As you see this Vogue cover from Britain starring Jane Fonda, who I believe is 81 years old, and really showcasing this is a non-issue. And her point in this article is that there is a massive demographic of people who are her age and older, and we need to start paying more attention to them as marketers. But also, as more people are living longer, there's going to be more people aging into this group as well.
I think the other thing about what can be learned from the beauty industry is how the beauty industry is shifting and recognizing that older consumers with gray hair and with wrinkles and with age spots and all of that, that there's nothing wrong with that. Look at the increase in the number of models that you see with naturally gray hair. You look at Jane Fonda or Helen Mirren with the L'Oreal ads that she does. You know, Helen Mirren is probably about the same age as Jane Fonda. Plenty of wrinkles, but beautiful and doing a great job being a spokesperson for some of their products. So I think that's something else to learn as well from the beauty industry, that it isn't necessarily a negative, that there are ways to talk positively about aging, that there are good things about aging. So I want to take a second and talk just a little bit about Ensure, because we've seen Ensure over the course of time really transform itself. For those of you who might recall way back, Ensure used to be in a metal can and was a hospital product that was used for feeding tubes. That was why Ensure was originally developed and how it was originally used for years and years and years. It then became something more for consumption at home as well. So in aseptic cartons, so that consumers not getting enough nutrition could get enough nutrition. I think they had some missteps with some ads at one point where they had their At the time, it would have been the boomer children urging their senior parents to make sure that they drank that so that they got enough nutrition. So just the same problem as with perennial. But nevertheless, we've seen the company really do some fascinating things in keeping its line current and appropriate to consumers today as they age.
Yep. And so there's something that we see as an opportunity with these. These are formulations that do it right, that aim to address some of the nutritional needs that all of us have. And so what I think is a really interesting example of this is from Abbott itself. But Abbott has embraced the fact that there are millennials and Generation Z out there who are of legal drinking age, are using Pedialyte, their children's rehydration product, to cure hangovers, maybe recover from their hangovers a little bit more easily. And so this is an ad that popped up on my web browser. Let's not talk about what I might be looking at, but I do analyze alcohol for a living. During St. Patrick's Day, where they had this find your rehydration pot of gold and locate Pedialyte in stores. This is also something that around the same time, one of my colleagues took off her earbuds at work and she was like, if I hear that Pedialyte ad one more time on Spotify, I'm going to have to listen to something else. So they were really going heavy in this past St. Patrick's Day to get more people to unlock this entirely new demographic. So it's something that we think could be used across a lot of these other healthy aging products to acknowledge that everybody needs nutrition. We may all be looking at the same claims that Perennial was making. The bone health, the gut health, all of those things are beneficial to anyone of any age. So potentially looking at aging up products.
So does Pedialyte work?
Thank you.
Does it work? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it actually probably is completely relevant to this place right now or anything you might be doing tonight. So keep it in mind in New Orleans. I will say I went to a bachelorette party where one of my friends' cousins was a pediatrician, and she came in with the Pedialyte Freezy Pops. That's fun when you've gotten home from the bar, a little bit of entertainment, feel like a kid again, and I felt great the next morning.
There you go. Okay. All right. Well, so to build on Jenny's point about products being appropriate for consumers of all types and how we see Pedialyte in a little bit of a very odd shift to a different demographic, this product up here too, this Nestum product, is another example of that. If you're familiar with Nestle's Nestum brand in Europe, it's a product for kids. So it's a nutritional product for kids, comes in a pouch, all of that. But this one here is specifically positioned to adults. And that marks a very big change for that brand. But it has a lot of the same brand values in terms of easy grab and go, quick nutrition, all of that. But the formulation and the positioning is not to children. It's very specifically to adults. So what that says to me is that for any of you formulating new products, think about what the makeup of that product is and if it's appropriate for a variety of age groups. If a little bit of a twist makes it better for kids, if another twist makes it better for adults, that might give you a really interesting portfolio of brands that could appeal to consumers of all ages.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's something to consider, that versatility as well as the universality of different products. And so these are a few products that we've picked up as part of our innovative products platforms, as well as some things that we've seen along the way that we think are really great examples either of the format or the formulation to be considering to, again, formulate these healthy aging products that are available to anyone of any age. And so it's not necessarily that this is a product that you need because you're a senior or Gen X should only be drinking this. It's that anyone needs nutrition and might be thinking proactively about their own personal longevity. So the collagen yogurt up there is an interesting one because it does have that collagen ingredient. We do see that starting to trend and be of interest. And so this is an interesting format for that. There was a product that one of our team members from Asia sent around last week that is a beauty product that is just a dissolvable ball of collagen that people can add into their own lotion. And so you could basically make any lotion a collagen lotion. And I thought that was an interesting format to consider to, again, give that versatility and universality that if a consumer wants extra collagen, they have the ability to add it to whatever they might be eating or drinking at that particular moment in time.
That really ties in very well with that product that you see in the center, which is called Water Drop, which is a drink mix. That's all it is. But if you think about that collagen drop, and think about this concept, and you can see how there is so much potential for formulation and for this particular product concept. Because what this is, it's a beautiful looking product, looks like a beauty product. It's got a pretty little box that opens up, and inside are essentially individually packaged little cubes that you drop into whatever, water or whatever, to give yourself some flavor, some added nutrition perhaps. But it's a beautiful, really simple format to give consumers that customized and personalized nutrition that they might be looking for, which I think is kind of cool.
Yeah, and this one has a lot of different functionalities as part of its line, very trendy flavors. And it comes in, these lovely little cubes that you could either just contain or, throw them in your purse and have them whenever you might need them, or your bag. And I thought that was a good format. Another really interesting one that I did not know until Lynn told me about this is this herbal tea that could also be used as a hair treatment. And so you can brew the tea and drink it, and it should have some beauty benefits. Yeah. But then also, if you steep the tea for, I think it's overnight, it's something very, very long, you can use it to treat your hair.
Yeah, the company says that it's, I want to say it's herbal, but it also has some green tea in it as well. And so it's supposed to stimulate hair growth and make hair beautiful and shiny and all of that. But you can get that benefit if you apply it onto your hair. And then it's just a very lovely tea if you just drink it hot or cold. So I have to say, we really haven't seen products like that on the market. We do see multi-use or multi-purpose products, and we do see products that are good to ingest or to apply to your skin. Collagen is such a great example of that. But this is probably the first time we've seen one. It's a hair treatment and it's a tea.
Right, which I think really showcases that overlap in between with healthy aging, that people might immediately think of those beauty benefits with anti-aging. And so this is a great overlap there. We are about to go to our final few slides, but we wanted to point out, we started with that quote from Hans Rosling about a viewpoint towards healthy aging as the freedom to do what you want. To take a different viewpoint, because Hans Rosling was in his late 80s when his book Factfulness was published. Let's take a look from a 31-year-old. She's very talented. I can't really call her only a musician, but saying that when I see myself as an old woman, I just think about being happy, and hopefully I'll still be fly. She's 31. So potentially still thinking about how cool she might be, which I think is probably not a problem for her. But
no, I wouldn't think so. No, but I think those two quotes really illustrate the important issues about thinking about generational differences. Everyone wants to be healthy for as long as possible. Everyone wants to be cool for as long as possible. But depending on where you are in that continuum of age, you might be focused slightly differently. For me, I'm all about Hans Rosling, and I want to be as good as I can be for as long as I can be.
Yep. I mean, I do too. I don't want to say that.
Yeah.
But, still be cool.
Well, I want to be fly too, but that's not as important. Yeah.
Okay, so some key takeaways before we wrap up. We do have some time for Q&A, so if there are any questions, we're happy to take any questions. So just beginning with the fact that longer lifespans make all ages the audience for healthy food and drink, so really consider that. It's not just about marketing by generation or by demographic, because as we noted with some of those products, that can really alienate almost anyone along that age spectrum. Our second one is the potential to age up formulations instead of creating things that are specifically designed for seniors. Really thinking about maybe taking some of the elements of baby food and children's food and moving that up into an all ages demographic. And then lastly, capturing all healthy aging consumers with versatile and universal products. Is there anyone in the audience who has any questions? We've got Michael with a microphone who's available.
We have like 5 or 10 minutes left, so feel free.
So I have a question for all of you. For those of you who are in the business of formulating products, are you currently working on anything that's specifically for older consumers?
Nope.
Just a couple. Okay, I'd like to hear what it is that you're working on, if you can say anything about it.
When I work for the cannabis industry, we make gummies with are full of sugar, but I currently develop a sugar-free gummy, and a lot of elderly are asking for CBD gummy that is sugar-free. So I'm working on that, and CBD is very well sell in elderly people. They're more interested in that than the recreational aspect of the cannabis, which is the THC. So we are focused on people with diabetes, people that just don't want to consume sugar, and especially people with pain and that they just want to have a better quality of life. So that's what I'm developing.
Fascinating. Yeah,
I think I
so-
saw one of my colleagues was talking about there's a story from TSA came out with their regulations about traveling with CBD. And one of the extreme examples is that there was a 71-year-old grandmother, they said this is part of the story, who was arrested going through an airport because she was traveling with CBD products. And presumably, whatever her reasons might be, potentially for pain and all those things that a lot of people are looking for that relief from that product. So it is being used by that demographic, as you said.
Any other questions? Okay. Yeah, we've got one more from the CBD lady here.
Here you go.
So, have you seen any preferences in the labeling? If you target a product for elderly people, like what do they want to see? For example, you don't want to be condescending, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
oh, poor, you don't know how to eat. But what, I don't know, should we label it differently, or should we, I don't know, have a different style or something?
I think the key with unpack communication is to talk about the benefit, as opposed to this is for you because you're older, because one senior may have certain issues that another senior doesn't. So if you're positioning, let's say, a product that is calming and relaxing or offers some pain relief, you don't need to market that specifically to seniors, even if that's the market that you might be mainly positioned towards. I would have your unpack communication be focused on what it does, what its benefit is. And if you want to make sure that you're targeting a particular demographic, go to where those consumers are with that product, as opposed to saying, here's the thing for you because you're old.
And I would say that's something we also see with our CBD and cannabis research in and of itself, is that there are a lot of people who want that education. And one of the main points that they're looking for education about CBD specifically is their friends and family. And so that could be a lot of word of mouth if you're meeting people where they are, really educating one consumer who can then go tell their friends of the gummies or the products that they've tried that have been helpful for them. But it's also educating the people who are there, who are in the stores, because a lot of people are walking into dispensaries or pharmacies where it is legal and asking for help. And it's always something that's kind of mystified me, because I think of it as much as if you walked into a bar and asked a bartender, or if you walked into Starbucks and asked them, what kind of coffee should I be drinking? So this is a lot of selective information that people might be having. I'm not saying that people in those stores are not educated, but the education that might be coming from a product or a brand can make a massive difference right now, because people want to know the efficacy. It may even go down to the strains and the provenance at some point, but they have a lot of questions that they want that clarity about. So making sure education being a primary example, either of the consumer or of the retailer, is a great one.
That's a very good question. Lynn and Jenny, we have one more question.
Is that okay to have another CBD question? Is there a bottleneck, in your opinion, in terms of manufacturing or the supply chain side, contract manufacturers, logistics, you name it, that serves as a bottleneck to what could come to the market, because brands do have or do not have the right options in terms of bringing products? So I'm trying to understand if that is a situation or not.
I think it's something that it is right now. I would say we're in that bottleneck phase because right now, if you are formulating and actually having products available, you're really only looking at that recreational markets, which it's 10 states right now, and the District of Columbia, and then all of Canada. And so it is something where we do hear from some people that they are in companies that they are ready for this, but they are waiting to turn on the switch because they want that FDA approval. And so it is something that everything is really at a standstill right now, unless you're willing to skirt around those regulations, unless you're willing to get your wrist slapped or fined if you are selling that, because right now, at least in the United States, none of that is actually approved for food and drink formulations.
And I think that trickles down, that bottleneck really trickles down to the growers too, because I'm sure there are many growers who are very hesitant about boosting production or new companies coming in, not being sure where their ingredients can actually go because of the challenges in actually getting finished product to market. But I think as we see more states approving recreational use, and as we see more conversation and more education of consumers about the benefits and the difference between CBD and THC, which is kind of wobbly in a lot of consumers' minds, that bottleneck will begin to ease.
Well,
Very
great.
good.
Thank you guys very much. We can take questions afterwards.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.